Welcome back to Review Crew. I'm Gabe.
And I'm Tim. On today's episode, we're going to review The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Carrie and Dylan are going on the spot to review Kick-Ass.
Here's the trailer for The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
I'm Nick Friggin! Okay!
What's the worry here, Nick? You've lost some of your talent as an actor?
No. What did he say?
He says he loves you, but he went in a different direction.
I'm done. I'm quitting acting.
Ah, man, I'm driving through the hills. I'm sorry. One more time.
We got another offer. It's $1 million. It's to attend a wealthy gentleman's birthday party.
The guy that owns this house, what's his name?
Javi. Mr. Cage.
Excuse me, is Javi going to want me to,
I'm not sure I understand.
Look, it's Javi.
I am Javi.
Nick Cage. God, this place is stunning. What is your favorite movie? That's one of those questions that's impossible to answer. You can't just limit it to one.
Imagine me and you, I do.
Is it too much? Is this supposed to be me? It's grotesque. I'll give you 20,000 for it. I didn't know that was a cliff. We could have died.
I'm in position.
I think that's the actor Nick Cage.
Nick Cage? I love you. Have you seen Croods 2?
I'm 44 years old. Why would I see Croods 2? I've seen Face Off and Con Air.
What do you guys want?
We're with Central Intelligence. Do you know who you're spending time with? One of the most ruthless men on the face of this planet. I need you to help the U.S. government. Let's kill this. Find a way into that room, Nick.
I can see myself doing more of this stuff. I think I might have a real gift for it.
Good, because we got another mission for you.
No.
Your friend is working for the U.S. government.
Don't lie to me.
Are those my golden guns?
They're my golden guns.
I don't want to kill you.
You're the last person I want to kill.
I love you. I love you.
I'm Nick Friggin!
Alrighty, so, Tim, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I imagine that's a title that describes to you, well, let's be honest here, talented, funny, handsome. Tim,
come on.
You got it all, buddy. You're like my own person.
Look who's talking, come on.
Now, this movie is many things. It is a overextended meme. It is an underbaked action-adventure comedy. It's a CIA thriller. Mm-hmm. But more than anything, it's a love letter to Nicolas Cage and his fans. So what does Nicolas Cage mean to you? Maybe what's your favorite Nicolas Cage film, too?
Great question. Great way to start off. For me, Nick Cage, I've never been like a huge fan of Nick Cage. I've seen a few of his projects, but I've enjoyed most of his work, all that I've seen. My favorite one is The Rock. That's Michael Bay, probably one of his few really actual, good movies, like a standout good movie. The Rock, that's Sean Connery, that's Nick Cage, that's breaking out of Alcatraz after the hostage situation.
That movie's so much fun.
That's a fun movie. That's just a great movie, and he's awesome in that.
Yeah.
He's like such a cool, everyman, hero type character in that. And so that's a great movie for me, is that one. Also, National Treasure is another one that kind of got me into archaeology alongside Indiana Jones. So that was an important movie for me. So Nick Cage, while not a huge part of my life, he definitely has been there and played an important role in certain aspects. What about you?
So I'm gonna say two. First, I'm gonna say National Treasure. Mm-hmm. National Treasure is the Da Vinci Code for people from Wisconsin, and so it was made for me. Mm-hmm. Second, I'm gonna talk about Into the Spider-Verse, where he plays Spider-Man Noir.
Oh, yes.
And he's just sometimes I let matches burn down to my fingertips to feel something. It is a send-off to one of the weirdest parts of Marvel history that no one talks about, and he's delightful in it. I'm not going to talk about The Wicker Man because that movie's horrible, and they take some pot shots at some of his bad movies, and I appreciated that. But as for what Nicolas Cage means to me, Nicolas Cage, I will always give him credit for being relentlessly self-deprecative of himself. He did an SNL skit in 2012, I believe, with him and Andy Samberg, where Andy Samberg played the real Nicolas Cage, and Nicolas Cage played like a clone of himself, and they made fun of all his mannerisms, and I find that delightful. And so, as someone who has a very self-deprecative sense of humor, he is bold and will do anything. So that's what he means to me. This movie tries to do many things, and it doesn't do all of them well. It kind of is an action-adventure comedy between the friendship between two men, Javi, who is Pedro Pascal, and Nick Cage, who's Nick Cage. And it's Nick Cage plays like himself, but he doesn't have any money, and he's also just off the deep end. What do you think? What do you think about the frame story for what this movie is?
Yeah, the frame story. I mean, this is just
because it's not really a plot.
It's the story itself is fine. I mean, it's overall I had fun with the movie.
Yeah.
It's not anything wonderful, and it's not something I walked out being like that sucked. But it was a fun movie and the story itself is, you know, I like the friendship between Javi and Nick Cage. That's the best part of the movie, and that makes up the bulk of the film. So I really appreciated that, and that was something I could follow along with very easily and just have a fun time with. The story of Nick Cage, you know, so he's like down on his luck actor now, and like he's looking for that next big project. I mean, it was interesting because Nick Cage is a guy who is really, like you said, he's got that self-deprecating sense of humor that he leans into sometimes, and he's not afraid to try new things. Like he has a lot of weird projects out there, especially in these last few years, like the Willy's Wonderland, Pig,
Mandy,
like you mentioned, Pig,
Color Out of Space.
Yep, a lot of weird
Insane
projects
movies.
that are just kind of like you wouldn't really go to the theater, but like. You know, Nick Cage is like putting his full effort into it, and you can see, you know, you got to respect it because it's a weird project, but he leans in. And this is one of those movies where it's kind of, he's just really a summary of that weirdness and just Nick Cage bringing it all together and then putting himself out there and being like, all right, this is a movie about me as a weird guy and a relationship I have with a fake character.
Yeah.
So overall, you know, fun, just interesting, and like if you're not walking in knowing what it's going to be, you're going to be kind of weirded out.
The frame story is underbaked. But it doesn't need to be substantive, because the real journey in this film is the friends we made along the way. It's the relationship between Nick Cage and Javi, and also Nick Cage and himself, because there's also a younger Nick Cage who's like Irishman de-aged,
Nicky.
and at one point they start making out, and that's weird. I didn't expect that to happen, and I didn't feel great.
Needed a shower after that.
Yeah,
That
no,
was a weird one.
it was like Loki. When Loki kisses the female version of himself, you start thinking about it, and you're like, the less I think about this, the better it's going to be for everyone.
Yup.
But this movie does what it needs to do really well, and what it needs to be is a send-off to Nicolas Cage. In fact, Nicolas Cage has received one Oscar before, and that's for Leaving Las Vegas, where he plays an alcoholic. And there's a scene in this movie that is very obviously like him proving that he can still do Academy Award-winning level performances. And it's the scene where he has like a drunken meltdown by the side of the pool. And so I kind of just want to talk about, like, what did you think about Nicolas Cage's performance in this? Because it's hard to play yourself. Like, that's not easy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he did a great job because he's playing himself, so I see Nick Cage, but also I just see a new version of himself that, you know, every other film, it's like, there's always the Nick Cage is a crazy guy meme, you know, like with his wild eyes and everything. But this was a much more kind of humanized version of it while still having those goofy elements to it. So I thought his performance was great because it had both sides to it, and he mixed between those two really well.
Yeah, we didn't get much of the yelling in the middle of the sentence thing that we normally get from Nicolas Cage, which felt good to me because I don't like when he does that because it blows out my eardrums. But some of the other performances in this, we kind of touched on Pedro Pascal, but there's this supporting cast of Ike Barinholtz and Tiffany Haddish, and at one point Demi Moore. What do you think?
Yeah, no.
I wasn't crazy about it, man. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I'm with you there. They didn't work for me. I honestly didn't have much thought or care for anybody other than Nick Cage and Javi, Pedro Pascal. Those two characters I loved, and I loved their relationship, and every scene with them was a joy to watch. And then they switched to another scene with Tiffany Haddish or Ike Barinholtz, and I was just kind of like, I
Just
don't
go back
care.
to what I want. Give me what I want.
You had me, but then you lost me. Go back to that. So, I mean, I know you need other characters in there to kind of propel the plot forward, but they just didn't work for me.
I completely agree with you. Tiffany Haddish, I just don't like her in anything. And I hate saying that. And then Ike Barinholtz, he's got a few good cracks in there. But ultimately, like, this is the Nicolas Cage show. And so we want what we want, and they take away from it. And so, yeah, we'll be right back after this break. And we're back. Now, Tim, quick question for you. Nicolas Cage played himself in the Nicolas Cage Crazy movie. Who would play Tim Rose in the Tim Rose biopic, Tim Rose?
Very introspective question. Good question. I've always had a connection with Rick Astley. The looks, I think it's the pompadour hair kind of, same color, same style. So Rick Astley, I would play him ideally, throw on a British accent, and learn how to sing. Because I'm an awful singer, but then do that and play him in a movie. But then maybe if Rick Astley could be de-aged, like through some form of medical technology, he could play me in a movie about himself. Because I've always enjoyed him. He's just a very wholesome human being.
I think you could also be a really good Ed Sheeran. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Yeah, Ed Sheeran, maybe a connection there.
Yeah.
What about you?
As soon as I say it, I think it's going to click for you. I think the Gabriel Bradham experience, which I've already thought of the name for the film, it's Jack Black. It's Jack Black as me.
Oh, that's, you know what? That is perfect.
Ladies love me because I'm sexy and chubby. Like, it's just like...
It just works.
I think he would be really good at playing me. I think Nicolas Cage also does a pretty good job at playing himself.
Yeah.
But this film, it's got some meta moments. You know, we just had a very meta conversation. This film has some meta moments. Some are good. Some are not so good. You want to come talk about that for a second?
Yeah, it's just I appreciated how like the movie it acknowledged what it was. It's a movie about focusing on a star playing himself, and it acknowledges like the whole there's a whole plot where like they are basically their friendship, Javi and Nick Cage. Part of it is they're trying to come up with a movie together.
Yep.
And as they're coming up with this movie, they have a lot of meta moments where it's like, oh, one of the ones that stuck out to me is like, we need a trailer moment.
Yep.
So we need like, although this is a great drama with a lot of great character moments, we need something big, like an action scene to like hook the audience. And not to sound like a pretentious film kid, but like in my film classes, we're like talking about all that stuff, like marketing strategies and everything towards your film. So it's really interesting to see how they incorporate that into the movie and like make it a joke kind of. But then what's interesting to me is that they also kind of fall victim to it because they do have that trailer moment eventually in the movie because it's kind of a fun action comedy. But the action is just kind of lame. Like it's there, but it's nothing it's not very great. It doesn't really grip you. It's just something flashy and big to look at really quick to distract you from any dialogue or anything for a few 5 minutes. I don't know.
I will say some of the good meta moments, they smack us around a couple of times. There's the Paddington 2 moment that if you first off, if you haven't seen Paddington 2, Paddington 2 is a legitimate film masterpiece.
Absolutely glorious film.
It is one of the best movies I've ever seen. Now, just getting back to the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, there's a moment where Pedro Pascal's like, yeah, my favorite movie is Paddington 2. And Nicolas Cage is like, dude, that's so stupid. Like, why would you say that? And it cuts to Nicolas Cage sobbing on his couch, going, he's fully uncaged the cage of Nicolas Cage, and he's just talking about, like, this movie is a masterpiece.
Yep.
And so there's some meta moments where, like, because that's what everyone's reaction is.
That's 100% true.
When you told me that Paddington 2 was your favorite movie, I hadn't seen it before, and I was making fun of you. And then I watched it because, I mean, you're one of my best friends and whatever.
Thank
you have great taste in movies.
Oh, thank you, you too.
And so I watched it, and I was like, Tim Rose is a genius!
Isn't it so good?
It's
free plug for Paddington 2, by
Paddington 2, like this is 10 out of 10, which this movie will not be, but we're going to get there eventually. Just stick with me on the journey. Now, so it's got some good meta moments.
Yeah.
But it falls, like you said, it falls victim to itself a couple of times. And so because of that, like it just, I don't know. It tries to be more than it is, essentially. And so kind of worked, kind of didn't. That's just personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And with a film like this that's like, it's marketed as so like character driven, as Nick Cage is kind of an exploration of that. You also need with not so many trailer moments, although it did have a few, with a film like this, you need like technical quality. You really need like the cinematography needs to be there, the direction needs to be there. You need to have something there to spice it up while keeping those character moments at the core.
And this didn't.
And it didn't. It just fell a little bit flat technically. Like there was nothing really stylish about it. It wasn't super like it didn't draw me in really, and that's the sign of a good director and a cinematographer is you don't really especially notice it, but it's there and it brings you right back. It like brings you really close.
Can I get a pretentious pass from you? Do I have a pass?
Oh, you have yeah. I'll hand out one of mine. Yeah.
This movie has an amazing budget, great storyline, and a cast who's willing to give their all for this film. I genuinely think that if like this is gonna sound horrible, but I got the pretentious pass.
No, you got it. You're good.
I think if you and I teamed up, we could direct this movie better than this unknown guy did. You know what I'm saying?
That is a bold claim.
But
hey.
But I genuinely have ideas like how you could make this like a visually stimulating film. Because a good film, you should be able to take the stills from it and it could be like a painting.
Yes.
And this movie, it's like, here's a shot of a hill for no reason, and then just whip pan, and Nicolas Cage is freaking out in the back of a truck. And it's like, we can do stuff with this. Like, being John Malkovich, this movie is in the same vein. But visually, being John Malkovich is I mean, it's insane. Like, it's crazy. It's visually, it's more than stimulating. Like, your eyeballs will just, like, burn after watching it. This movie, it's got the visual skill of Rambo Last Blood. Like it's just scenes
kind of boring
on a camera.
Yeah.
And it's not great, and I think Bradham Rose Productions, we could really Rose Bradham, you can be in the front if you want. I'm a kind guy. I think we could like make a better movie than this unknown director. Because here's the truth about Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. It is more than a box office bomb. It is an utter failure. It hasn't even made a third of its budget back yet.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, yeah.
I don't know if it's symptomatic of the fact that Marvel, like people are watching movies for Marvel now. Movies like The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, like we're not going to get another movie like this.
Yeah, it's supremely unique, and it's a shame that it's failing. Like it's just a shame that more people aren't going out to see it because it could draw in a lot of people and it could be something that really hits for a lot of audiences. But like you said, like with Marvel and these big franchises, that's really what people are going to see right now. And independent, like more unique films like this aren't getting the attention as others. But we've talked about some of the good, some of the bad for this movie. What is your final rating of Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent?
So I am going to, I'm giving it 2 numbers. I'm going to give it, as a action comedy film, it's a 7. Because this movie, it'll be racing towards first place in some things, and then it like trips itself and shoots itself in the foot and tries to keep running. And so it could have been a better, more compelling action comedy, but it's just a love letter to Nicolas Cage. It's a love letter to the people who've supported him no matter what he's done. It's a 10 out of 10. And those people deserved a film like this. And so this movie isn't exactly for me, but it has its target audience in mind, and those people will be delighted by this film. What about you?
For me, yeah, it was, like I said, not a huge Nick Cage fan, so I'm not really like leaning into that, love letter aspect of it for me. But it did have some good and some bad that kind of almost weighed each other out. In the end, though, I did have more fun with it than I thought I was going to walking in, so I'm leaning towards a 6 just because it was fun. It had a lot of good moments. I loved Pedro Pascal and Nick Cage, but definitely a lot of room for improvement, and that's where it loses a few points. So 6 out of 10 for me.
All right, that's enough for us. We'll be right back after this.
And that's all for this week. If you want to follow more Review Crew content, go to the Review Crew Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, as well as Orange TV Network on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, and YouTube.
Find the Review Q's podcast on Spotify or on our website at orangetvnetwork.syr.edu, where you can also find our blog and more OTN information.
Also, be sure to check out Friday Night Movie Night on OTN. This week's movies are The General, He Walked by Night, and Plan 9 Outer Space.
See you next week.